This is Drilling Insight, where we talk about ideas and issues that affect the drilling and groundwater industries. I'm Jeremy Verdusco, host and editor of The Driller. With me is co-host and drilling expert, Brock Yordy. Welcome, Brock.
Hey, Jeremy, how are you doing?
I'm excellent. Let's get on to today's show. Our guest today is Tom Moffitt. Hey, thanks for being on the show, Tom.
Thank you for having me.
Tom spent years in sales and product line management at Atlas Copco, which is, of course, now Epiroc. His experience spans water well, mining, and geothermal. So we brought him on today's show to talk about innovations in drilling rig technology he's seen in his 20 plus years in the industry. So welcome to the show again, Tom. Let's start with our usual opener. Did you choose this industry or did it choose you?
Well, I kind of like to say that I was born into the industry. My father was with Ingersoll Rand for his entire career. And when I was born was the salesman for Ingersoll Rand for New England and covered that area for basically all their products, including water well. And throughout his career, he was heavily involved with drilling equipment and, on the mining side and the water well side. And so from a young age, I used to go into, with him on weekends to the factory and get to walk the factory floor and see him play with the drills. And then as I got older, I took some field trips with him. And I remember one specifically where we went to New Hampshire to the Seabrook power plant, and they were drilling holes out under the ocean floor for the cooling tunnels. And I just thought that was really neat. And I think those things kind of led me to choose to go into, I got a degree in mining engineering, and then after I got out, there really weren't any jobs in mining, so I worked for a directional drilling company and formation evaluation company offshore California, doing that work, and then an opportunity presented itself. Well, I'll say the oil and gas market slowed down, and I went to work for a water well company back in New Jersey. And I started an environmental drilling division for them back in this was in mid 80s or so, and did that until actually Ingersoll Rand came and called on me and said, hey, do you want to do equipment sales for us on the West Coast? My wife was from the West Coast, and I had, previously lived in California, so it was a great opportunity to get back. And I moved back and got involved with the water well and exploration markets for IR. Eventually, as you said, IR sold the business to Atlas Copco, and then it spun to became Epiroc that it is today.
So, with all of that experience from being out in the field with your father, watching rigs run, through your professional career of mining and going offshore and whatnot, an equipment manufacturer's goal is always to improve the equipment over time. But our industry is very slow to change and always has pushback on price and change in standard parts. What is your case for changing a good proven rig that is making good hull?
I think, Brock, it comes down to, where can you improve productivity of the machine, the longevity of the machine, and importantly, safety. We all want to have a safer drilling machine. So I think those are things that at least I tried to look at, and as a company, we tried to look at. And as you said, at the same time, you got to keep product cost in mind, because you want people to buy the product, and there's so much that could be done to a drill today, but it would be a $2 to $3 million drill rig that nobody would buy. So you have to keep in mind what the market's willing to pay for. But there's things that that are easier to do, from a longevity point of view, switching to nylon shivs versus metal shivs, going from maybe a PTOL or from a pipe wrench to a PTOL wrench, from a safety aspect. So there's things like that. And like you said, a dramatically different machine is hard to introduce to the market.
What is the case for those changes? I mean, companies obviously don't turn over rigs every year because of it's a long-term kind of capital thing. But
Right.
what's a product development from maybe the last 10 years, either production or safety that you think could have wider adoption?
I think, let me jump back to, maybe the prior question for a second, just that, which ties into this, that, probably one of the biggest change over the last 10 years has been the engine changes. And not, unfortunately, it doesn't improve productivity. But it's all EPA mandated to get us a cleaner environment. And so those things are mandated, and as a manufacturer, that takes a tremendous amount of work to go from, tier 0, which was back in the 90s, to tier 1, 2, 3, 4 interim, and then 4 final. You're constantly redesigning your cooling system, and then the truck manufacturers are also making changes. But as far as, in the last 10 years, as far as production, what has been done from safety, I'd say, I think you see a lot more rod handling systems, and hopefully, some people have some better breakout systems. As I said, we moved away from pipe wrenches to PTOL wrenches, but there's even more automated breakout systems that are available. A lot of the European machines have safer breakout systems.
Just more strategies to keep hands and drillers away from this activity.
And from a productivity side, I think if we look back to the changes in the engines, it's pushed a lot of the rig manufacturers to go to PTO based equipment, and so traditionally, most big air rotary machines, which is typically the market we sold to, and some mud rotary equipment, it was all single or 2 engines with a deck engine, and you had a big air compressor and everything. And because of the EPA mandates, it just got really hard to be able to do everything on a 2-engine rig due to weight, space, truck designs and everything. And so most manufacturers have moved to mostly or strictly PTO based equipment, and in doing so, it was trying to get a bigger engine under the hood to get you a bigger air package, and then pushing the pullback capability of those machines so that we could drill deeper holes. And so there's been a tremendous amount of shift from deck engine machines to PTO, and trying to get them to go do what deck engine machines have done in the past.
Speaking of product development, is it tougher to translate field feedback to engineering, or engineering speak to our drillers in the field? It's like a middle school dance trying to get the engineers and the drillers to come into the middle of the floor together and realize they're trying for the same goal.
Yeah, Brock, a lot of my job, was traveling out to the field and meeting with customers, and trying to learn, what were their pain points, how could we help them improve the rig from a productivity and safety point of view, and then myself having an engineering background, I would try to, as best as I could, translate that information, so that our engineers could look at that and understand it. I will say, working for a major international company, your engineering teams can be spread throughout the world, and you know, not all of them have had the opportunity to be out on a water well rig. So you know, they may design something with the best of intention, you know, the way they look at it as to, you know, this is going to work great, and then you see it, and you know, you can immediately see that, well, it's got this issue or that issue, and so, you know, one of the things we tried to do was to get our engineering team out in the field, go watch a well being drilled, just, you know,
Yeah.
be there for the whole process. You know, a lot of times you just maybe would show up and see them drilling, but it's important to see them, you know, setting casing, grouting, and doing the other things, because that's all things that the rig needs to do, and it needs to do them efficiently. You need to be able to see that, you know, why is it important for the table to swing open, and that they need to weld and things. So, you know, we would try to get our engineers out in the field, as we got into you know, developing rigs and getting the drawings in. We would generally select some key partners that we worked with, drilling companies throughout the
Yeah.
U.S. And
Testers.
yeah, well, we
Or,
even prior to testing, we would bring them in and talk to our engineers and go over the design
okay.
and the prototypes. And today, you can do a lot with you know, automation and video modeling of the machine, so that they can see things, and we could see things that, oh, this is going to hit this, and this isn't going to do work quite right. But you know, Jeremy, as you pointed out, you know, yes, as we build a prototype, you know, yes, we would you know, bring in people to do that, and then try to, you know, field test it, and then, you know, selling your first machines, probably as Brock can attest, you know, it's sort of picking the right customer. You don't want to go in and sell the first machine to somebody that's not acceptive of new technology,
Yeah.
and you know, loved and wanted their, you know, a 20-year-old rig. You know, you need to find the right customers, and so we would kind of look around and determine who those were. And there are drillers in each region that are influencers that people look towards, and
Yeah.
see that, you know, they bought this machine, and you know, those people will be out saying, you know, hey, we love it, or we hate it. You know,
Yeah.
hopefully they love it.
You've been an integral part of some of these development processes. How have they changed over time? Is it more iterative? Are you going through more versions, longer, shorter? Is it easier to track?
Yeah, you know,
I mean, a barrage of questions, but you know, there are many ways that it could change, and just wondering what you've seen.
yeah, I wish I could say it got easier. You know, I'd say it's gotten much more challenging and longer. You know, as a major manufacturer, and a lot of the drill rig manufacturers are ISO certified. And when you're ISO certified, it comes you know, with certain standards that you need to follow from an engineering point of view and documentation. So the documentation can be fairly extensive, and so you don't want to be building one of this and one of that, and so you know, that takes a lot from an engineering point of view to thoroughly document what you're doing, and so that, you know, of course, as a manufacturer, you want to be able to, you know, build the next machine and the next machine, you know, the same.
Yeah.
But it's gotten more challenging. You know, as I said, you know, the tier engines have added a lot of complexity. They've also added weight to the rigs, and you're constantly trying to do things with weight. You know, one of the things with weight was we used a weight optimization software that kind of came from the aerospace industry, because they're very concerned, you know, with doing things, you know, with the least amount of weight, And so this software allowed us to look at various different materials, whether it's metal or nylon or what, and you could specify the type of steel, and it would recommend a thickness, and it would also actually, in the higher end programs, it could take your design of, say, a drill table or a jib boom or something, and it would recommend how to make it smaller, how you could arch out different areas, and that you didn't need all the metal that you had there to reduce the weight. And at the same time, many times you were actually improving the structural integrity by doing that. So, so that was a real interesting thing that we started using probably 5-6 years, maybe 7 years ago.
So speaking of expectations of a manufacturer, and we've talked a lot about product development, we get that big buzzword in there of life cycle management and new design of a rig. What is the acceptable amount that you've seen from prototype to rig launch in changing? You got these influencers, you have these drillers that have different expectations from east and west of the Mississippi, north and south, winterization versus extreme heat, elevation, but we also have a mothership company that's saying, hey, how long is it going to take? We're excited to sell this new widget. How do you manage those expectations?
Again, that's quite a challenge. And as I said, things take longer, much longer than you would hope they would be. I think the drilling community would ideally like me to say it takes a year and a half to do that. And you're looking at 2.5 to 5 years, depending on what happens. We had a rig that we spent a lot of time and energy on, and took it to a trade show, and there were issues with it. And basically, we'd worked on it for 2 to 3 years, and we went back to the drawing board on it and didn't re-release it for another 3 years. So you want to come to market with the right product. So it takes a while, and then you got to do you build a pre-production unit, you go test it, and then you finally come out with the finished product. And as I said, you got to get it into the field, and you don't want to go out and sell 100 of them on day one. You want to kind of closely track it for a while and make sure things are working right. So it's yes, I wish it was much faster. It's frustrating. I will say, working with a bigger company, there's a lot of pool for development money to go to maybe a different sector. So you're constantly saying, hey, what about me? We'd like to do this. Yeah. And then you look at, as I said, the addressable water well market, new rig market is very small today. And it's a challenge to say, let's go invest, multiple $1 million on coming out with a brand new machine, when that payback period, instead of maybe being 1 to 2 years, is maybe 5 to 10 or longer. Yeah. And it's just a real challenge in today's market.
With that, we'll wrap up today's episode, part 1 of a 2-part discussion. While today's episode talked about the development path for heavy construction equipment like a drill rig, the second part of our talk gets into supply chain issues and safety standards for the machines drillers use every day. Thanks again to Tom Moffitt. Find fresh episodes of the show on our website or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Search Drilling Insight and hit subscribe. Visit thedriller.com for the latest industry news and views, and don't forget to follow us on the usual social media channels. Until next time, this is Drilling Insight.